I actually put my camera level kind of to my height, and it's making me feel very tall. Hello, my name is Elise, and this is going to be my December wrap-up. I read 11 books, I'm pretty sure. Half of them were pretty good, half of them weren't, and a lot of them were audiobooks, but that's good because I haven't listened to audiobooks in a really long time and forgot how much I love them. So yeah, let's get into it and see what I read that month. My first book for December was I Would Leave Me If I Could by Halsey. Yes, it's that Halsey, the singer, and I listened to this as an audiobook. It's a poetry collection about love and mental health, and I really enjoyed it, especially for someone who is known as a singer. I think it can be hard to branch off into other directions such as writing books, but I thought this was really well done, and I thought that the depiction of mental health and love and all the other themes in there were very vulnerable and down to earth, and I appreciated that. Definitely would recommend the audiobook because the narration was really great. The second book I read was called Not This Time, which was about two girls, Sophia and Madison, who used to be in this really huge, successful girl band, and it was great for them. They were really great friends. They actually had a little secret relationship going on, but things get totally torn to shreds when Sophia decides to go solo. And this sounded to me like something I'd really enjoy because I really do like music and I love bands and I like reading memoirs about bands, so I said why not read one about a fictional band, but it ended up not being too great for me. I gave it 2 stars or maybe 2.5 stars. I just didn't like the writing style that much. I just thought it was very simple and repetitive, and I thought the characters were annoying, and I really didn't care about anything going on in the book, so I'm really sad that this ended up being a disappointment to me because I usually love things that are based on music. The next book is An Ember in the Ashes. I'm sure many of you have heard of this book. It's a fantasy book, kind of a dystopian type feel to it, and I know a lot of people love it. I only gave it 3 stars, and the reason for that is I thought the beginning was incredibly slow, and I really struggle to read fantasy already, so when fantasy books are slow, it just takes me forever. I did end up pushing through and finishing it because I was reading it for a book club, but the first 20 or 30%, probably more like the first 50%, honestly, was a struggle for me. Every single time I tried to read the book, I would literally fall asleep, like be launched into a very deep nap, which is never a good sign, but after I pushed through, it did get a lot better, and I did enjoy the characters, and the plot picked up a lot more. I just did not like the beginning part. Then I read Finding a Way Home, which is a super short book on the history of mixed race marriages in the United States. Seriously, very short, probably a bit over 100 pages, and that was it. I thought it was pretty good. I only gave it 3 stars because it was incredibly brief and I didn't think there was too much to it, but it was still very interesting, and if you don't read too much history like me, I thought it was super easy to consume, and the text was very light and easy to read with the vocabulary, so I appreciated that. I did learn some stuff, but I did wish there was a bit more to it because again, it was incredibly brief, and mixed race marriages definitely has a very long history. I am the product of a mixed race marriage. I can actually hold up the next book because I own it for once, but it is called When Life Gives You Mangoes. Seriously, look at how gorgeous that cover is. I love it. Kaylee, if you're watching, thank you for sending this book to me. I appreciate it very much. But anyway, this is about a 12-year-old girl named Clara. It is a middle grade book because she's 12, and it takes place on this island, and it's about mental health and feeling lonely and friendship because clearly she's not going to stay lonely the whole book. But I really loved this book. It was definitely a middle grade book, but it read like it could be for any audience, and I really appreciated the take on mental health because I feel like that's not talked about enough for middle grade audiences because that's definitely something that could affect 12-year-olds. So I appreciate that representation. Writing was gorgeous. Again, the cover is gorgeous. That definitely doesn't affect the quality of the story, but it's a huge bonus, and I love the plot. So the next book is called Choosing Life, and I got this as an ARC off of NetGalley, and unfortunately I did not know it was the 3rd book in a series that I've never read before. Oops. but I did end up reading it anyways, and it totally made sense even without me reading the other 2 books, but it was fantastic. I really loved it. It was about a girl named Grace, and she's struggling with an eating disorder and kind of on the line of both relapse and recovery, and there's all these other issues going on with her family and her friendship and her school and college and all of that, and I just thought it was a really great take on mental health and friendship as a teenager, because it felt like it was actually coming from a teenager without being like cringy or forced, if that makes sense in any way. I liked the writing style because it was definitely YA, but again, not cringy, if that makes any sense. I'm sure if you read a lot of YA, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I really liked it, and I also thought there was a lot of fun references that totally reminded me of when I was a teenager. I say as if I wasn't just recently a teenager. But yeah, there was a My Chemical Romance reference in there that made me go, yeah. The next book is called The Good Girls, and it's a thriller YA mystery type book, and in this book there's a girl named Lizzie who was kind of a drug addict with all these problems. She was kind of an outcast in school, and she ends up dying, and it's ruled as a suicide, but no one actually knows what's going on. And then a few years later, a girl named Emma dies, except she's a good girl. She was competing for a scholarship, and she never broke the rules or anything, so her case was not ruled as a suicide. It was considered to be a murder. Dun dun dun. And then 3 girls are the prime suspects of this girl's murder. One of them is a cheerleader with very strict parents. One of them is known for partying and doing drugs and selling drugs and breaking all the rules. And another one is a do-gooder kind of overachiever student who was competing for the same scholarship as Emma. I thought this premise was super interesting. I loved the differentiation between these different characters and how they could all come together in the end. I do think my one problem was that it was incredibly slow in the beginning, and I was reading other reviews and it seemed like other people thought it was really slow, and I thought that was a shame because it ended up being a really good book, but the beginning part was slow that I think it would lose a lot of people. But if you decide to read this book and you can push through the beginning, I thought the ending was definitely worth it. The next book is called We Used to Be Friends, and it's a young adult book. I was really looking forward to it because it's about these 2 friends who were childhood friends, and then they kind of drift apart in high school because of all the drama and life happenings. But I ended up being incredibly disappointed. I gave it 2 stars or maybe 1.5 stars, which was honestly pretty generous because the writing was not great at all, and it alternated between both of the friends' point of views, but also went back and forth in the timeline. Like, it had random chapters that were towards the end of senior year of high school and then towards the beginning in the summer and all over the place. I just thought it was incredibly messy, and there was just too much going on, and none of it really did anything for the plot. I just thought it was confusing and messy and not worth it. I did finish it. I hated the ending, and yeah, I think it was very generous for me to give it 2 stars. So the next 3 books are all memoirs that I listened to as audiobooks while I was coloring the Harry Styles coloring book that my brother got me for Christmas. So the first of these memoirs was called What We Don't Talk About When We Talk About Fat. It is a memoir of a woman reflecting on her personal experiences of being fat and her own self-perception and how other people have perceived her and the abuse she's received from the public because of just living who she is. And I thought it was really good because I love when memoirs mix both personal experience and actual factual data, and this book did a really good job of incorporating that. I gave it 5 stars. Definitely would recommend this. I really love the audiobook. If you like audiobooks, please listen to this one. It was great, and especially as a nonfiction book, I just thought it was lovely. All right, I'm kind of realizing that none of these memoirs were particularly uplifting, but the second memoir is called The Sun Does Shine. This is about a man, Anthony Ray Hinton, and he was convicted of a crime he did not commit and then was put on death row. And this was his experience of being on death row and having to deal with the fact that he knew that he wasn't guilty. And it's seriously such an emotional book, and this man, Anthony Ray Hinton, was literally told that he was being convicted of this crime because he was a black man and the person who committed the crime was a black man, and it doesn't matter because your people committed this crime and that's why you're taking the blame for it. It doesn't matter as long as one of you people are being blamed for this. And I just thought it was super emotional and disturbing, obviously. One of the people mentioned in this book, Anthony Ray Hinton's attorney, Brian Stevenson, he wrote another book on the criminal justice system in death row, which I read, totally recommend. But yeah, I really liked this memoir. Not the things that happened in it clearly, but I thought it was really well written. And then the last memoir I listened to was called Heavy. This was about a man reflecting on his experiences of being both black and fat in America, and just all these themes of body image and abuse and eating disorders and race and education, and yeah, all of that. It was a pretty short memoir, but I thought it was really great too. Obviously, I like memoirs, if you couldn't tell. Definitely not a lighthearted book. It was very emotional, as can be expected as with any kind of memoir, I guess. And yeah, I enjoyed this one too. I like memoirs. Give me your recommendations if you have any. And that is it for my wrap up. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know if you've read any of these or plan to. Yeah. Alright, see you next video. Bye bye. There's trains, there's doors slamming, there's people talking. It's 11 p.m. I don't understand.